Alright, so chapter 8, Excel. This is our last one in Excel. And remember, they're all due, for my lecture class, they're due the 29th. So, for the online class, you have a little bit longer. Alright, in C4, we're going to calculate the annual percentage rate for a loan. So I'm going to go look in my formulas for financial and just look. There's nothing in here that looks like an annual rate. So I'll just scroll down and here is a rate. Now this is calculating a monthly rate, not an annual rate. Okay, so our NPER, it tells us right here. Our payment amount is right here. And then our present value is, we're in the hole, 30 grand. Now, sometimes we can use negative in our formulas and other times we can't. A lot of times if you can, it'll give you a number down here, and if you can't, it'll give you an error of some sort, like a value error, I think. So anyway, this gives us our monthly interest rate. So to get an annual interest rate, I've got to multiply by 12. Okay. And then it wants us to format it as a percentage. So I'm going to go home, percentage, and then increase my decimals to 2. Alright, and then C6, we're going to calculate a total cumulative interest. Okay, so I'm going to go back up to my formulas. Look for something that might be cumulative interest payments. Returns the cumulative interest paid between 2 periods. All right. So again, my rate, this is an annual rate, but we're doing a calculation on a monthly cycle. So again, I would divide by 12. My NPER is the number of payments. Now this, we can't, it's not going to give us that error. You can't do a negative on this one. Okay, so just put in present value. And then our start period is always 1. Well, nearly always 1, I'll just say. 99% of the time it's 1. When we're doing an amortization, it'll be whatever period we're on. Okay, and then our end period is the number of payments. Is the last period in the calculation. Okay, so we have 84 payments. And then this this one doesn't explain, but 0 is end of month, end of the period calculation, and a 1 is beginning period calculation. So like if you put in 0 and it's 86.40, if I put in 1, you save $240 in interest. Okay, so meaning if you make your payment before they calculate interest, it helps. It more goes to principal faster, so to speak. Okay. Now we need to show this as a positive number and format it as currency. So to do that, all I'm going to do is reverse the sign. So I'm going to come up here between my equal and my formula name or my function and just put a negative. Okay, so that reverses the sign of whatever it calculates here. And then I'm going to go home and select currency. And then the total cost of the loan is really just the loan amount plus my interest. So on a $30,000 loan, you're paying $8,000 in interest over a course of 5 years, I think. 6 years. I don't know. Anyway, 84 divided by 12, whatever that comes up to. All right. Then the next one, we're going to calculate our monthly payment. And I know what that is, so it's a PMT. Okay, again, I could come up here to my formulas and go find it. I'm going to click on my function argument so that I can step through. It steps me through what all these things need. Okay, the rate. It even tells you here the interest rate for the period. So we're looking at a monthly period. Okay, for example, you divide by 4 for quarterly payments at 6%. Okay, so my rate is divided by 12 because there's 12 months in a year. My NPER is right here, and my present value is negative $3,000. If they're bold, they're required. If they're not bolded, they are optional. You don't have to put them in. Click OK. And then again, this one is the same as this one, so it's a cumulative interest payment. Notice as I start typing, it starts bringing in what's available to me. Okay. And returns cumulative interest, so I'm going to double click on that. And if once you get used to your functions, right here it tells you it's the rate, NPER, so I could just click on my rate divided by divided by 12, comma. Notice I have to have a comma in between each one of these. My NPER, my present value, how much is my loan? My starting period is always 1, nearly always 1. And my ending period is cumulative interest payments. That's what I'm calculating. My end period is my NPER, total payments paid. Okay, and then the last thing is this one actually does give you payment is timed at the end of the period or the beginning of the period. Okay. So if we were doing the function argument, it would look like this. And then we come back in here and reverse the sign. Format this to currency. And total cost of the loan. All right. Now this one, we're going to calculate the loan, the total number of payments. Okay, so I'm going to come on here, look in my formula, financial, and maybe there's something that's called NPER. So I'm going to scroll down. Oh, look. NPER returns the number of periods for an investment based on periodic constant payments and a constant interest rate. Okay, so my rate is this, but I'm doing quarterly payments this time. Okay, so I'm going to divide by 4, and my payment is $1,500, and my present value is negative $30,000. Okay, and we don't need any of this either. If you look, what's the future value? Well, if I'm on a loan, I want it to be 0, right? But if I'm doing an investment, I might want to know how much. Say I wanted $100,000 in 2 years. How much do I need to put in at 10% or whatever? It can calculate that kind of information. So your future value most of the time on loans, actually all the time on loans, is 0. Investments, you would put in what your future value wants to be. All right. Now we're going to calculate our interest again. Cumulative interest payment. I'll do it the other way. Okay, so the rate, again, this is a quarterly payment, so I'm going to divide by 4. My NPER is 24. My present value is 30. Starting period. Ending period is 2 years later. And my timing is 0. And then we're going to reverse the sign. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, currency. And then the cost of the loan is that. Okay, so next we are going to calculate an amortization schedule, and we're going to base it on option 3. So we're looking at quarterly information. Okay, my beginning balance is this loan amount. Now we've got to calculate our principal payment. Okay, and so we're going to go to formulas, go down to P, there's a payment, but then right under it is a PPMT, returns the payment on the principal for a given investment. Okay, so I want that one. And notice that we're going to copy this down. Alright, so anything I use up here needs to be an absolute reference. Okay, so my rate, and I'm going to F4. Okay, again, this is quarterly, but this is an annual rate. So I'm going to divide by 4. My period is actually over here. Okay, so at period 7, it knows that I've made 6 previous payments. Right, so we're going to select B12. Our NPER is I5. And absolute reference that. Our present value is a negative 30 grand, and we're going to absolute value that. And then our future value and type we don't need. Okay, so there's our principal payment. Now I'm just going to go ahead and throw this down. Okay, so notice each month it goes a little bit higher, and our interest payment is going to go a little lower. Alright, so next we're going to do an IPMT, interest payment. Okay, the rate on it is divided by 4. The period, again, is over here. Our number of payments in the investment is our NPER, absolute value of that. And then, again, we're in the hole, 30 grand, and absolute value of that. Now, if you add these two together, I should have $1,588.38, which is what my payment is. Okay, so $900 is going to principal, $600 is going to interest. And you can copy that down. Okay, so notice it gets smaller, 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 smaller as the principal goes up. Okay, so now on an amortization schedule, the ending balance is actually just the beginning balance minus our principal. It does not take into account your interest payment. Okay, so we're going to copy that down. Then our second period, the beginning balance for the next period is the ending balance from the previous period. Okay, so it's taken into our balance is $984 less than it was the first period, okay? And then we're going to copy that down. If you scroll down, you should be 0, and the previous balance is your payment. Okay? And that was it. So you might want to double check that this is currency. Yeah. They're all set to currency, and you're good to go. That's it.